The train screeched to a halt, and I stepped onto the platform with trembling legs. It had been 5 long years since I left my hometown. 5 years of cold cells, endless accusations, and whispered judgments from strangers who believed I had done something I could never imagine myself doing. I clutched my bag tightly, my heart pounding as I thought of my father. The last memory I had of him was his stoic face outside the courtroom, his eyes betraying more sorrow than anger. He had always believed in me, even when everyone else had turned away. But as I approached the familiar streets, my hands shook, not just from nerves, but from fear of what I might find. My father's house, the small brick home at the end of Willow Lane, looked different somehow. Time had not been kind. Paint had peeled from the walls, and the garden was overgrown, wild with weeds. I ran to the front door, fumbling for the key I had hidden under the flower pot all those years ago. But the door was already open. My stomach dropped. Inside, everything was silent. Too silent. The familiar scent of my father's pipe, his morning coffee, his leather chair, gone. Dust covered the furniture. The house felt abandoned, lifeless, like a shell of the home I once knew. I called out, my voice trembling. "Dad? I'm home, it's me." No answer. I ran through every room. The kitchen, where he used to make his morning tea. The living room, where he told me stories about the past. The study, his pride and sanctuary, nothing. Not a single sign of him. Then I noticed the stack of mail on the table. The envelopes were unopened. Among them was a small card, typed and plain, sitting on top. "Your father passed away last week. Funeral arrangements were private. We hope you find peace." I felt my knees buckle. The words blurred through my tears. My father was gone, and I had missed him. I sank into the chair in the study, clutching the card to my chest. My mind raced, trying to process the emptiness around me. 5 years lost, my father gone, and the truth behind my imprisonment still unknown. Then I noticed something else. On the desk, partially hidden under a stack of papers, was a small envelope with my name written in my father's handwriting. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a single note. "My dearest daughter, if you are reading this, it means I am no longer there to protect you. But you must know the truth. The truth about why you were taken away. Look behind the bookshelf in my study. There is a box. Inside, you will find answers." I stared at the note in disbelief. My father had left me a trail, a secret meant only for me. A trail that could reveal the truth behind my imprisonment and perhaps explain the mysteries he never told me. My hands shook as I pulled the bookshelf aside. Behind it was a small safe, dusty and old. I entered the combination he had once whispered to me during my childhood, a combination no one else could know. The safe clicked open. Inside was a bundle of letters, photographs, and a small leather-bound journal. The first letter I opened made my eyes widen. It was from a lawyer I had never met, explaining that my arrest had been orchestrated by someone powerful, someone who wanted to destroy my family. Tears fell freely. My father had known. He had known all along, and yet he had waited, hidden the truth, and protected me from the danger, even from beyond the grave. I held the journal close. My journey had just begun. Outside, the sun was setting, casting long shadows over the house. And in that moment, I vowed silently to uncover the truth, no matter the cost, no matter the dangers that awaited. My father had left me a legacy, not just of love, but of secrets. And now, I would follow his path. This was the beginning of my reckoning. Night had fallen when I finally sat cross-legged on the floor of my father's study, the leather-bound journal open on my lap. Each page was filled with his careful handwriting, looping letters that seemed to carry the weight of his entire life. If you are reading this, my dear, it means my time has passed, but yours has just begun. You must understand what you never were allowed to see. The people who conspired against you are still out there. They want you silenced. They want our family erased. My hands trembled as I turned the pages. There were names, officials, businessmen, even acquaintances I had trusted. Every entry pointed to a powerful network of corruption that had deliberately orchestrated my arrest. Then I found photographs. Black and white images of my father meeting strangers in dimly lit offices, signing papers, shaking hands, but always looking over his shoulder, cautious, fearful. And one photo made me stop cold. Me at the courthouse the day I was taken, surrounded by unknown men whose faces were partly obscured, watching me with cruel satisfaction. I realized then that my imprisonment was not random, it was personal. A sudden sound outside the house made me freeze. The wind rustled through the trees, but there was another sound, a footstep on the porch. My heart raced. Was someone watching me? After 5 years in prison, the world felt unpredictable, hostile, and unsafe. I quickly gathered the letters and photographs, tucking them into my bag. I needed to move. The truth might have been waiting for me, but danger was never far behind. Outside, shadows stretched long across the overgrown garden. I crept to the back gate, peeking through the cracks. A dark car rolled slowly past the street, its headlights off. Someone was watching, I could feel it. I remembered the journal's instructions. My father had mentioned a safe meeting place, someone who could guide me. His handwriting had hinted at a woman named Elena, someone I had never met, but someone I could trust. I memorized the address written at the back of the journal. A small, unassuming apartment on the other side of town. I had no idea what awaited me there, but I knew I had to go. It was the next step in uncovering the truth. Before leaving, I paused. The house felt alive. I could almost hear my father's voice whispering in the walls. Be brave. Trust yourself. Finish what we started. I locked the front door behind me, the sound echoing in the silent street. Each step I took toward the car felt heavier than the last. Memories of my life before prison, before betrayal, mixed with the fear of what was coming. But I pushed forward. The city streets were quiet. Streetlights flickered. I clutched the journal, the letters, and the photographs. Each item was a piece of my father's puzzle, a puzzle that could finally explain why I had suffered so much. As I approached Elena's building, I felt a cold awareness. Someone was following me. The hairs on my neck stood up. I ducked into the shadows, hiding behind a corner. The figure moved past, slow and deliberate. I exhaled. Close, but I had avoided detection, for now. Reaching the apartment, I hesitated. I rang the bell once, twice. A chain rattled, and the door cracked open slightly. A woman's voice, calm but wary, called out, "Who's there?" "I'm Daniel. My father sent me. Please, I need to see you." There was a long pause. Then the door opened fully. Elena stepped into the dim light. She was tall, composed, with piercing eyes that seemed to see through me. She gestured for me to enter. "Your father trusted you with this," she said softly, closing the door behind me. "And now, you must see the truth he protected. But understand this, once you know, there is no turning back." My heart pounded. I was finally at the point where secrets would unfold, where the story my father had kept hidden would be revealed. Elena led me to a small room in the back, where a table was set with files, documents, and a laptop. "This," she said, placing her hand over the papers, "contains everything about the conspiracy that ruined your life. Your father left these for you, but be careful. The people who imprisoned you will not forgive, and they are still watching." I nodded. My journey had just begun. The truth was here, waiting to be uncovered, but so was danger. I picked up a file. My father's handwriting labeled it clearly, "For my daughter, the evidence they tried to destroy." And in that moment, I knew one thing. I would uncover the truth, no matter the cost. Elna gestured for me to sit as she opened a file. The documents were thick, filled with legal papers, letters, and photographs, each one detailing an intricate web of betrayal. I couldn't believe my eyes. People I had once trusted, friends and colleagues of my father, were all involved in a conspiracy that had destroyed my life. "This is bigger than you think," Elena said softly. "Your father uncovered evidence against a criminal network. They wanted him silenced. When you came into the picture, you became the perfect scapegoat." I swallowed hard. 5 years of prison, all for a crime I didn't commit. And now I finally understood why. Elena handed me a photograph. I stared. It was me, the day I was arrested. But standing in the background were shadowy figures, men in suits I had never met, watching, making sure everything went according to plan. "They orchestrated your arrest," Elena continued. "Your father tried to protect you, but there was nothing he could do without risking his life. And yours." I felt a surge of anger. Not just at them, but at the system that allowed this to happen, at the world that had turned its back. My father had sacrificed everything to keep me safe. Why didn't he tell me? I whispered, my voice cracking. "Because he didn't want you to fear," Elena said. "He wanted you to live without the shadow of this danger. until you were ready to take it on. I ran my fingers over the documents. Every name, every date, every meeting my father had recorded now carried a new meaning. He had been fighting a battle I had never even known existed, and now it was mine. Suddenly, a sound from outside made me freeze. Footsteps, soft, deliberate. Someone was watching the building. Elena's eyes narrowed. "They found us," she said. "They know you're here." My stomach dropped. I had thought I was safe, finally with someone my father trusted. But now even this sanctuary felt fragile. "We need to move," she continued. "There's a secure location where you can access the rest of your father's evidence. Only there can you understand the full scale of the conspiracy." I nodded, determination replacing fear. I had spent 5 years powerless, 5 years waiting for justice. Now I had a chance to fight back, to uncover the truth, and to honor my father's sacrifice. Elena handed me a small flash drive. "This contains everything your father collected. Every document, every photograph, every piece of evidence they didn't want anyone to see. But it's dangerous. Once you use it, there's no turning back." I gripped the flash drive like a lifeline. My father had left me the key to his secret battle. And now it was my responsibility to finish what he had started. We moved quickly, slipping out a back exit while keeping to the shadows. The streets were empty, but I could feel the tension, the invisible eyes tracking our every move. I kept my hand on the flash drive, knowing it held my freedom and the justice my father had died protecting. We arrived at a small, unmarked building. Elena led me inside. "This is where your father trusted me to bring you," she said. "Here you'll find the tools to expose them. But remember, they are everywhere. You can trust no one outside these walls." Inside, the room was filled with computers, files, and maps. The scale of my father's work hit me. He hadn't just been fighting for our family. He had been fighting a war against corruption, deceit, and murder. I realized then that the fight was only beginning. I had to be smart, careful, and relentless. Every step I took from this point forward could be life or death. Elena looked at me with resolve. "Are you ready?" she asked. I nodded. My father's voice echoed in my mind. "Be brave. Finish what we started." "Yes," I said, "I'm ready." And with that, my journey into the truth, into danger, betrayal, and revelation began in earnest. The room was silent except for the hum of computers and the occasional rustle of papers. I sat at a large desk, the flash drive in front of me, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. Elena stood nearby, watching me carefully. "This is everything your father collected over the years," she said softly. "Emails, bank records, meeting notes, surveillance photos, all of it. Some of it may seem insignificant, but when you piece it together, the full story emerges." I took a deep breath and plugged in the flash drive. Files opened one by one, revealing a hidden world I had never imagined. The network of corruption stretched far beyond our town. Politicians, business tycoons, even law enforcement officers had been involved in my wrongful imprisonment. I stared at a document that made my heart pound. It was a handwritten note from my father, detailing a meeting he had overheard just days before my arrest. Names, dates, threats, all meticulously recorded. He had known exactly what was coming, and yet he had done everything in his power to shield me. Suddenly, a photograph slid across the table, unnoticed by me. Elena picked it up. This is why they wanted you gone," she said quietly. It was me, 5 years ago, standing outside the courthouse, oblivious to the men watching me from the shadows. My father had circled one man in red ink, the mastermind behind the conspiracy. My blood ran cold. "They're still out there," Elena said. "And they won't hesitate to come after you again if they know you've accessed this evidence." I clenched my fists, a mixture of fear and determination surging through me. 5 years of my life had been stolen, but now I had the tools to take back control, to uncover the truth, and to expose those who had destroyed our family. Elena guided me through the files, showing me how to cross-reference the documents, match the photographs with bank records, and trace the movements of the people involved. The pieces of the puzzle slowly began to form a picture that was bigger and more dangerous than I could have imagined. Hours passed like minutes. My mind was racing, trying to absorb everything. I found a ledger that revealed secret payments made to key officials, bribes that had facilitated my arrest, and threats made against my father if he had interfered. Every entry was a testament to the lengths these people would go to protect themselves. Then I found something that made me pause, a folder labeled "The Final Plan." Inside were detailed instructions to eliminate anyone who could expose them, including my father. It was clear now why he had been so protective, so secretive. He had known the danger extended beyond me. He had fought to keep our family alive even as he battled them. I felt a surge of grief, but also an unyielding resolve. My father's sacrifice had not been in vain. He had left me the means to finish what he started. Elena placed a hand on my shoulder. "Tomorrow, we move. You need to confront these people, but you must be careful. They are powerful and ruthless. One wrong step—" "I understand," I said firmly. "I'm ready." For the first time in 5 years, I felt a spark of hope. I was no longer a victim. I was armed with truth, evidence, and my father's guidance. Outside, the city was quiet, but I could feel the tension, the hidden eyes watching, waiting. The danger was real, but so was my determination. Tomorrow, I would begin the next step. I would expose the conspirators, honor my father, and reclaim the life they had stolen from me. And I would not stop until justice was served. Dawn broke, casting a pale light over the city, but I felt no warmth. My mind was focused, every nerve alert. Today, I would take my first step toward confronting the people who had destroyed my life. Elena had prepared me meticulously. We had traced the movements of the main conspirators, pinpointing a meeting location where several key players would gather. It was risky, too risky for a direct confrontation, but I had no choice. If I wanted the truth to come out, I had to face them. I checked the flash drive one last time. Every file, every photograph, every note my father had left was there. My fingers lingered over the leather-bound journal as I whispered a quiet promise. "I won't let you down, Dad. I will finish this." We arrived at an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town. Elena signaled me to stay low, keeping in the shadows as we approached the side entrance. Inside, I could see the men, powerful, arrogant, unaware that I knew their secrets. Elena handed me a small recorder. "You need to get evidence of their next moves. Record everything," she whispered, "and don't let them see you." I nodded, my heart pounding. I slipped inside, unnoticed, hiding behind crates and machinery. The room was filled with hushed voices, plotting, planning, conspiring. "She's out now. The girl who was in prison?" One man sneered. "If she gets her hands on the files, everything we've built will collapse." Another laughed. "She's powerless, 5 years locked up. She won't know what hit her." Anger boiled within me. They thought I was powerless. They thought I had no strength. But they had underestimated me. I activated the recorder and began documenting every word. The files, the bribes, the threats. They were speaking openly, unaware that their plans were being captured for justice. Then suddenly, one of them paused, squinting toward the shadows. "Did you hear something?" My breath caught. Elena motioned for me to stay still. I held my position, heart racing. The men returned to their conversation, laughing dismissively. I exhaled quietly, feeling the tension ease. After what felt like hours, I had everything I needed. I slipped out of the warehouse the same way I had come in, heart pounding with a mix of fear and exhilaration. Outside, Elena met me. "You did well," she said. "This is just the beginning, but now you have proof. Proof that can bring them down." I looked at her, determination burning in my eyes. They thought they could destroy me. But they didn't know my father had prepared me for this. And they won't know what hit them when the truth comes out. For the first time in years, I felt a glimmer of hope and power. I was no longer the helpless girl wrongfully imprisoned. I was a force to be reckoned with. Tomorrow, we would begin the next phase, taking the evidence public, confronting the network, and finally, ensuring that justice would be served. And I would not stop until everyone responsible paid for what they had done. The night was heavy, almost suffocating, as Elena and I pored over the recordings and documents from the warehouse. The evidence was overwhelming, but it also revealed something I hadn't expected: betrayal from someone I had once trusted implicitly. A name jumped off the page: Liam, my childhood friend and confidant. The one person I had confided in during my darkest days, the one who had promised to stand by me. And there he was, listed as one of the orchestrators of my arrest, coordinating with the same shadowy network that had imprisoned me. My hands shook as I read the details. Messages he had sent, meetings he had attended, and payments he had received. It was all there, black and white. Liam had betrayed me, betrayed my father, and had been instrumental in destroying my life. "How could he?" I whispered. my voice barely audible. He was supposed to be my family, my friend. Elena placed a steady hand on my shoulder. Betrayal is part of the game. The people you trust most are often the ones who hurt you the deepest. But you can't let it stop you. We have to focus on the mission. I nodded, though the sting of betrayal burned deep. It was a new kind of anger, raw, personal, and relentless. The next morning we moved quickly. Armed with evidence from the flash drive, the journal, and the warehouse recordings, we began reaching out to investigative journalists and trusted authorities who could help bring the conspirators to justice. As the truth spread, the network began to crumble. Meetings were canceled, communications intercepted, and panic began to ripple through their ranks. But just as I thought we were gaining the upper hand, a chilling realization hit me. The mastermind was still out there. The one who had orchestrated everything from the shadows. The person who had manipulated Liam, the officials, and even my father's enemies. I knew the final confrontation was inevitable. I had to face this person, not just to bring justice, but to finally understand why my life had been shattered. Elena looked at me gravely. Tomorrow, we go after the mastermind, but be prepared. This person is cunning and dangerous. One misstep could cost you everything. I clenched my fists. Fear lingered, but it was tempered by determination. I had survived prison, betrayal, and years of uncertainty. Now, nothing would stop me from facing the truth head-on. As I went to bed that night, I held the journal close. My father's words echoed in my mind. Be brave. Trust yourself. Finish what we started. Tomorrow, the final chapter would begin, and I would confront the one person responsible for the pain, betrayal, and chaos that had consumed our lives. The morning sun rose with an almost cruel clarity, illuminating the path I knew I had to take. Today, there would be no shadows, no hiding, no second chances. The mastermind, the architect of my imprisonment, my father's suffering, and Liam's betrayal would finally face me. Elena and I arrived at a secluded estate on the outskirts of the city, a place shrouded in secrecy. From what the evidence suggested, this was where the mastermind conducted his operations, far from prying eyes. I felt my pulse quicken as we approached. Every step was calculated, every breath measured. I was no longer the helpless girl who had been locked away. I was armed with truth, proof, and the determination to see justice served. Inside, the grandeur of the estate belied the darkness that had unfolded within its walls. I could hear faint voices and footsteps echoing in the hallways. Elena whispered, "Stay calm, follow me. Wait for the right moment." We moved silently until we reached a private study, and there he was. The man who had pulled the strings all these years, sitting behind a massive oak desk, calm and composed, as if he had been expecting me. "Ah," he said, his voice smooth, almost cordial. "I wondered when you'd finally arrive." I stepped forward, heart pounding. "You ruined my life. You destroyed my father. And for what? Power? Money? Control?" He smiled faintly. "You still don't understand, do you? Everything I did for survival. Your father was a threat, and you were collateral damage. But I admire your spirit. Truly I do." I felt a surge of rage, but also a clarity I had never known. "You won't get away with this. Everything, every bribe, every threat, every life you've ruined will be exposed." "You underestimated me." He leaned back unconcerned. "And how do you plan to prove it? You think anyone will believe the words of a girl who spent 5 years in prison?" I held up the flash drive. "I have every piece of evidence your network left behind. Emails, recordings, photographs, even Liam's betrayal. The truth will come out, and when it does, you will answer for every action." For the first time, I saw a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. He had always relied on fear and control, but now the power had shifted. I placed the flash drive on his desk. "It ends here. Justice will be served." Suddenly, the sound of sirens filled the air. Elena had alerted the authorities, who had tracked us and were now surrounding the estate. Panic flashed across the mastermind's face as he realized that every move he had made was now exposed. He stood, trying to escape, but the doors were locked. Liam, who had been coerced into silence, was there too, cornered and forced to face the truth. You betrayed me," I said, my voice steady, looking directly at Liam. "And now you'll see what happens when the truth is revealed." With the authorities entering the estate, arrests were made swiftly. The mastermind, Liam, and the entire network of conspirators were taken into custody. My heart pounded, but it was no longer a mixture of fear and anger. It was relief. I finally stepped outside. the sunlight warm on my face. Elena stood beside me, smiling. "You did it," she said softly. "Your father would be proud." I held the journal close, feeling my father's presence with me. 5 years of pain, injustice, and betrayal had led to this moment. I had fought, uncovered the truth, and honored his legacy. As I walked away from the estate, a sense of peace settled over me. I had reclaimed my life, exposed the darkness, and proved that no force, no conspiracy, no betrayal could break the bond between a father's love and a daughter's courage. For the first time in years, I felt free, and I knew deep in my heart that justice had finally been served.